What is the Reformation?
The Reformation was a very violent period in Europe where even family members were often pitted against one another in the wars of religion. Each side, both Catholics and Protestants, were often absolutely certain that they were in the right and that the other side was doing the devil's work.
And how did all this start?
Back to the 1500s, the Roman Catholic Church was very powerful in a political and spiritual way. In Western Europe, popes and cardinals often lived with wealth such as kings. They claimed temporal as well as spiritual power. They commanded armies, made political alliances and enemies, and even waged war. Clearly, if the Pope was concentrating on these issues, there wasn't as much time left for caring for the souls of the faithful. The corruption of the church was well known by everyone, and several attempts had been made to reform the church, but none of these efforts successfully challenged church practice until Martin Luther's actions in the early 1500s.
And who is Martin Luther?
He was a German monk and professor who caused or started the Reformation in 1517, when he collocated a post in the Castle Church in Wittenberg. This post contained his list of these known as his 95 Theses, that talk about what he thought of church practices and the self-indulgences.
And what are indulgences?
The self-indulgence was a practice where the church acknowledged a donation or other charitable work with a piece of paper. That certified your soul will enter heaven more quickly by reducing your time in purgatory. If you committed no serious sins that guaranteed your place in hell, your soul went to purgatory, a place where you pay for your not so serious committed sins. Pope Leo X had granted indulgences to raise money for the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Martin Luther was a man who thought that no matter how good a person was, or how many good works they had, it wasn't enough to gain a place in heaven. But this changed when he read "The just shall be by faith" of St. Paul, which made him understand that a person will win his place not by doing good work, but because of their faith. The problem was that for the Catholic Church, humans must do a lot of good works to gain their salvation.
In the first half of the 16th century, Western Europe experienced a wide range of social, artistic, and geopolitical changes as the result of a called Protestant Reformation within the Catholic Church.
What is the Counterreformation?
Was the period of Catholic revival, also called the Catholic Revival or Catholic Reformation, that began after Council of Trent. This movement is considered a response to the Protestant Reformation. This movement began in 1517 when a German Augustinian friar named Martin Luther passed a list of grievances called the 95 Theses against the Roman Catholic Church. The Counter-Reformation was a comprehensive effort composed of four major elements: ecclesiastical or structural reconfiguration, religious orders, spiritual movements, and political dimensions. The principles of the Protestant Reformation are, through Catholics, principles leading to deformation and to the perpetuation of abuses, such as the subservience of church to state or the marriage of the clergy, to say nothing of doctrinal error. Both the continuance and correction of the same abuse cannot be due to the same.
The Reformation movement originally began in the Catholic Church, and Luther was a Catholic reformer before he became a Protestant. By becoming a Protestant reformer, he didn't indeed hinder the Catholic Reformation, but he did not stop it. It continued to gain headway in the Catholic South until it was strong enough to meet and roll back the movement from the North. Even if our Catholic reform had been altogether posterior to the Protestant, we could not admit that our reform movement owed its motive power, or its line of action to the latter, in the way that modern reform movements among Orientals are due to the influence of European thought. As the spirit of reform spreads, other leaders appear. Ulrich Zwingli in Switzerland, French-born John Calvin, who settled in Geneva, and John Knox, who carried Calvin's teachings to Scotland.
We can conclude that the Reformation divided Christianity, and it gave birth to new branches of religion, such as Anglicanism, Lutheranism, and many more. After this, the Catholic Church responded to this movement by correcting what they did in the past through the Counter-Reformation.